Hello again, and welcome back to another workshop video. This time around, we're taking a look at the Flashforge Creator 5. Does it deliver on what it promises? And can it make the kind of prints I actually want to use, or put on display? Hope you enjoy it. Whenever I get a new 3D printer, especially one with 4 separate tool heads, I'm always eager to just get it set up and start printing. But this isn't the first 3D printer I've brought into the house. So sometimes, one small extra bit of detail goes a long way with my better half. This will not be a full-on technical review, but rather an honest look at what this machine can actually do, and some of the key features. Now, this printer was sent to me by Flashforge, but as always, I am not confined by any guidelines. I can simply use it the way I normally would, and share my own unbiased impressions. Basically, what you see is what you get. And in this case, it's the Flashforge Creator 5, a 4-toolhead multicolor FDM printer, supposedly making multicolor prints faster than ever before. So the sensible thing would be to start with a small 3D benchy, as I always do. At this point, I only had a few filament colors to choose from, but luckily they were just the right ones to make Venom. And it was at this exact moment where the Creator 5 really started to make sense to me. Flashforge calls this system Flash Swap. Original. The printer itself was printing just as fast as you would expect from any modern FDM printer. But seeing it keep that pace, all while switching between the tool heads and building a full multicolor print at this speed, that was the really impressive part. They've listed plenty of specifications and technologies behind this printer, but the bottom line is this: making large multicolor prints this fast is really what makes 3D printing fun. Take this Venom bust for example. It uses almost the full build volume, and still, it was only a 22-hour print. Multicolor printing at this speed makes the whole thing feel almost instantly rewarding. It feels less like starting a project and more like just choosing something from a shelf. You might expect this, and I was sort of anticipating this, that with this kind of print speed and all those tool changes, that the print quality would take a big hit. But that wasn't the case at all, because it came out looking really amazing. And I think we can agree that this type of model, with all the exposed teeth, steep overhangs, and that tongue hanging all the way around the side, that this would make for a good 3D benchy. And to think this is the result I got by using the default settings. It's worth taking a closer look at what makes this 3D printer different. The Creator 5 uses 4 separate tool heads. Each one has its own hot end. So instead of changing the filament through one shared nozzle, the printer simply changes the entire tool head. That means less waiting and no more purge. Flashforge is listing this as having 0 filament waste. And from what I have experienced so far, this is actually pretty close to the truth. The build volume is 256mm cubed, which is a pretty common size for this kind of Core XY printer. And yeah, I would always love a bigger build volume. But if you're able to split the model, you can make something a lot bigger. So for the next print, I went with the Juggernaut. And to make this Colossus, I printed it across 4 separate build plates. And this time, I did play around a bit with the slicer settings. But I only ended up changing 3 things: supports, infill, and most importantly, the prime tower, which we will have to talk about later. I could probably tweak the settings even more, maybe even use less infill, but there is something really cool and satisfying about grabbing a hold of a large-scale figurine that actually has some weight to it and feels really solid. The model is from CA 3D Studios and was probably meant for resin printing, but I scaled it up, making it almost a quarter-scale figurine. The coloring was something I did inside the Flash Studio slicer. And while it is time consuming, it is also pretty straightforward. So far, I found the plug-and-play default settings in the Flash Studio slicer to be more than good enough for most prints. But for figurines, things like the supports and difficult overhangs can still benefit from a bit of tweaking. But as for the overall print quality otherwise, it was looking pretty good, especially considering this was all printed at 0.2mm layer height. As for the assembly, if you got two opposable thumbs, it shouldn't take you more than 5 minutes. Fully assembled, the Juggernaut came out looking really amazing. Now of course, if you know this X-Men character, you will probably notice that a few of the colors are not quite right. The brown suit should have been a bit darker, the skin tone a bit warmer, and the display base would have looked a lot better with different color variations. But that really brings me to an important point. When you buy a multicolor printer, the printer itself is only half the story. The other half is building up your filament collection. And that takes space, time, and money. Take this next print for example. I'm really into football, and with Norway now out of the World Cup, I can only cheer for England to finally bring it home. So naturally, I wanted a World Cup trophy, just sitting on the table while I'm watching the next game. And for that, I needed two specific colors, silk gold and just a small amount of silk green. I bought a full roll of silk gold, which is a color I can see myself using in the future. But for the silk green details, I only needed around 50 grams. That's when I discovered this on Amazon. Perfect. I would like to see more of this. It's perfectly suited for a specific project you would like to print, and making multicolor printing a lot more affordable. And with separate toolheads now becoming more common, multicolor printing is only going to keep growing. So, smaller packages giving you more options would simply make a lot of sense. One thing I really like about this Creator 5 is that it doesn't lock you into a specific spool system. There is no RFID reader, and the spool holders are really simple. So you can use different brands and different spool sizes to build your own collection. And as you can tell, it's a small 250 gram roll. It fits perfectly on the Creator 5. In my experience, when printed with silk filaments, or PETG for example, it always tends to leave the nozzle looking like a cotton candy stick. Thankfully, the Creator 5 has an open frame design, so everything is easy to reach, and the fact that you can simply remove the entire tool head and clean it comfortably while holding it in your hand. Well, it might not be the most important information I could share, but not having to crunch down underneath a fixed print head, breaking my back and getting my head stuck. Yeah, that has happened. It's just one of those small details that quickly become something you really appreciate. And as for loading the filament, it really couldn't be more straightforward. Push it in as far as it goes, then press the lever on the tool head. Give it one final push and release that lever again. It's now firmly held in place, and the filament is loaded. And because there isn't an RFID system, you will need to input what type of filament and what color manually. Choosing the filament type is simple enough, but the available colors listed are still a bit limited. And out of all the things I've made so far, this was the best one yet. And honestly, if I had printed the same model on my H2S, I really don't think I would be able to tell them apart. The surface is perfect. It has retained that really silky glossy finish, and all the subtle details came through beautifully. So now I have the exact right tool for watching the next game. Yeah, having a bud watching the game. Well, if you know, you know. With that done, I wanted something a bit more colorful, and although Gengar might just be your thing, I only made this one as a test. Something small like this is the perfect way to see if all the colors work well together. before you move on to a bigger print. A brightly neon-colored Iron Man bust. It is a display piece, but it also has a practical aspect, promise, as it will function as my new headphone stand. But sadly, this particular print wasn't perfect, as you can tell from the visible layer lines on both sides. Now, why did this happen? Well, this one is entirely on me. It's simply the result of playing around a bit too much inside the Flash Studio slicer. But having said that, the Creator 5 isn't perfect, and at the time of making this video, or at the time of editing this video, I've put in around 200 hours of printing on this machine. So I feel I've got enough to go through all the pros and cons I've experienced so far. And to do that, we're going to go all the way back to when it first came out of the box. As with all 3D printers, there was some assembly required. But because of a few clever solutions, this was actually the fastest I have ever put together a 3D printer. The touchscreen simply slides into place and is secured with only 2 screws. No cables, no connectors, just a very clean solution. The screen itself is bright and the menus are very easy to navigate. However, the actual touchscreen could be a bit more responsive. The toolheads were another pleasant surprise. Thankfully, they arrived fully assembled. And holding one in my hand, it feels really solid and actually a lot heavier than you would expect. There is one major thing missing though. As it comes to nozzles, there is no quick swap solution, so you'll really have to go old school. That means taking everything apart. The good news though is that once you've done that, you only have to do it 3 more times. Because everything is already assembled, all you have to do is simply slide the cassette into place. The magnets seem really strong, and as it pulls home the toolhead, they lock in with a really satisfying click. And as for cleaning and maintenance, combining the open frame and the fact that you are quickly able to remove the entire toolhead is something I really appreciate. Before starting a new print, I always check the boxes for leveling and flow calibration, simply to always start with the best possible baseline. The Flash Studio estimates one thing, but reality is another. It's been my experience so far that the full startup routine can take upwards to 30 minutes. Hopefully, this is something Flashforge can improve on with a future software update. But when it comes to the actual printing, it's been consistently flawless. In fact, every part of this machine has impressed me, except the built-in camera. It's only useful for basic monitoring. You can check that the print is still running, but for things like a time lapse, the image quality and frame rate are simply too limited. Another minor detail I wish was better, the built-in lighting. Yes, it's very bright and practical, but they make a surprisingly loud humming sound, almost like an old fluorescent light. And the thing is, once you notice this, it is very hard to ignore it. Using the Flash Studio slicer and applying colors to the model can be time-consuming, but it is fairly straightforward. And the same goes for preparing and slicing any kind of print. But as far as the wider ecosystem goes, Flashforge still has a lot of catching up to do. I haven't only been printing props and figurines. I simply use the Creator 5 the same way I normally would. That also means household items and functional mechanical parts. And honestly, the tolerance and the overall accuracy has been very impressive, especially when you consider all the attention is focused on the multicolor aspect. Like this one, it's a simple print-in-place tool holder. And it's working exactly as intended. And the same goes for this adjustable wrench. Both were print-in-place models, straight off the build plate. No supports, no assembly. And when you combine that level of accuracy with the playfulness of printing props and figurines, you get exactly that plug-and-play feeling that makes this machine so much fun to use. Of course, there is one other major focus with this printer. What happens between the color changes? Or rather, what doesn't happen? Almost every model you print will still need support structures, and once they've done their job, they usually go straight in the bin. That is a simple fact about 3D printing. Whether you use a single nozzle printer or a printer with multiple tool heads. So this is not where you get your benefits. You will also need a prime tower, which is also the same with both types of printers. This gives each tool head a small area to get the filament flowing again. In the beginning, I found them to be really compact and heavy, maybe wasting more filament than they actually needed. You can't adjust everything, but inside the Flash Studio slicer, I could adjust the size, shape, and density. Ultimately, I believe I reduced the filament that I used by half without compromising the print quality. So, if using a prime tower and supports are exactly the same, what is the actual difference? Well, the filament purge, of course. The insane amount of purged filament, commonly referred to as the filament poop. It's created when multiple colors share one nozzle. Thankfully, no more of this. Right from the beginning, I said this would not be a technical review or a video focused purely on the specifications. The question was simply this: does the Creator 5 do what it sets out to do? Because when a 3D printer actually delivers on what it promises, and then even goes beyond what you expect it to, you end up spending your time printing with it rather than working on it. Personally, after putting in more than 200 hours into the Creator 5 so far, I think the answer is a definite yes. It's not perfect. There are still a few things I would like to see improved, but considering what this printer offers at this price point, complaints about the camera and the lighting starts to feel more like nitpicking, because neither of them changes what the printer actually produces, and where it really counts: consistent, beautiful prints. So in my opinion, the Creator 5 has delivered beyond what I expected. It has produced some really impressive prints, and most importantly, it has simply made me want to keep on printing with it. I really hope you enjoyed this video, or at least found something useful. If so, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell, and we will definitely share our next project with you. Thank you for watching.